Of course, this is not financial advice and for entertainment purposes only.
Investors, we have one of the youngest investors on Blossom, Mr. Jared Lamarche. He is a 20-year-old investor who has over $21,000 in his portfolio, all verified by Blossom. Now, Blossom, if you guys want to join Blossom, it'll be in the link in the description of this video and in the pinned comment section. Now, Jared is a full-time university student working many jobs. He has 9 ETFs in his portfolio from Vanguard, YieldMax, Harvest, Defiance, and Granite shares, including some Bitcoin and XRP. In terms of dividends or distribution yield, Jared has a 54.08% yield right now, mostly thanks to YieldMax contributing to the highest portion of that yield. Now, Jared, your portfolio is valued at over $21,000. Congratulations, with your average monthly income being just shy of $1,000 soon, and you have a goal of hitting over $120,000 per year in dividends or distributions. First of all, congratulations and welcome to the channel. How are you feeling?
Thank you so much, man. It's crazy to be here because I look up to you on Blossom and stuff like that and all the stuff you're doing. It's just crazy to be here. I love it so much. I love talking about my passion and I love investing. So I'm so happy to be here right now.
Now, first question for you, Jared, is can you give us an introduction of yourself as well as how are you here today with over $21,000 in your portfolio?
Yeah, my name's Jared Lamarche. I've always loved investing. I've watched it on YouTube for a long time. Even since I was like 16, 17, I knew I always wanted to be rich and I always wanted my money to work for me because I've always been a hard worker. I've been working since I was 12. Right now in the summer between university, I'm working 3 jobs, 7 days a week. I love money. I love having my money work for me. And I love growing my portfolio. There's nothing better than seeing that money go up every single day, every single week. And, it's just amazing. I love it.
In terms of your university, so what college do you go to and what are you studying?
I'm at the University of Windsor down in Canada. And I'm studying psychology in hopes to be a psychotherapist one day, get my PhD and be a doctor of psychology.
Now, what are your jobs right now?
Jobs right now. So one, my 9 to 5, or you call it my Monday to Friday. I work at an oil company. I do deliveries. I build gas and diesel pumps all day. And I do whatever they need me to do. Next, I own a lawn care company. So I cut grass after work during the week. So I, cut a lot of grass, do a lot of lawn maintenance. And that's pretty much every day as well. And then on the weekends, I work at a retail store. I work at Canadian Tire. And I just do retail stuff there. I can do absolutely everything. I'm a cashier. I do stock. I help customers. I can do absolutely everything.
So with that money from your jobs, how do you have over $21,000 in your portfolio? Did you start this year, last year?
Well, I first started investing. It was earlier this year, just before the election. My brother and he had some friends at work who were investing in VFV and a bunch of other Canadian equities by Vanguard and stuff like that. And he was telling me to get in, you should get in. And I was like, dude, I don't know. I don't know about this stuff. I like holding on to my money because by this time I had a lot of money in my bank account. I had it up to about $18,000 just sitting in cash because I'm a good saver. I just save my money. I don't spend it. I knew I wanted to invest, but I wasn't sure. I knew the election was coming up. So it was kind of like a day before the election. I bought $150 worth of Bitcoin and $150 worth of Ethereum. And then the next day I just saw it shoot up like crazy and it blew my mind. And that was kind of my first taste. And then over the next 2 weeks, I invested about $11,000 over the next 2 weeks. I was all in. I went 8,000 in VFV and I had about 1,000 in TD and around 2,000 in Enbridge.
You have about 27.9% of it allocated to YieldMax ETFs, followed by the top holding of VFV as your top holding, then ULTY at 22%, TESLI, MSTE, MST, MSTY, HHIS, and XBTY. You started off with VFV mostly. Now, what was your thesis on it? Why VFV out of every ETF in the market?
Well, I knew VFV was track the S&P 500, and after seeing so many videos on, the historical growth, the average growth of the S&P was 5.2% per year or something like that. And that was really appealing to me, like watching my money grow like that and having that nest egg security in my portfolio. I feel like that was super important to start. I had to start with a growth, something where I can keep my money and I know it's safe.
Your portfolio. So can you give me a rundown of what kind of strategy do you have? What kind of investor are you? Why your portfolio is allocated the way it is?
My portfolio earlier this year was super heavy on VFV. I was over 50%. And then over the last 2 months, I've really been doing my research on covered call investing and income investing. As of right now, I consider myself a hybrid investor, going for growth and for dividends and this income so my portfolio can grow. I have about 34% in VFV, 60% in income, and then about 5% crypto. Yeah, it's mostly income because I want to see my portfolio grow. I love seeing that checks hit every Friday. XBTY pays on Tuesdays, and then we have our harvest, which pays on the 9th of every month, which is awesome. And I can allocate it wherever I want, whatever's down, and I get to watch my portfolio go up.
When did you really start getting into passive income investing, covered call ETFs, and what made you really pull the trigger on it? Because you started off with VFE, a little bit of crypto, and now you are in basically, let's say, the most highest portion is covered call ETFs.
Well, I got started with it from Blossom, of course. I love Blossom. I've learned almost everything I've known about investing on Blossom. It's been my biggest tool in my investing journey. I was seeing investors like Paul and Perry, even, before they got on YouTube and the interviews and stuff. I followed Paul because I really liked his journey. I followed him at 500 some followers, and I really liked what he was doing. And I liked the thought of, retiring early, financially independent. I really liked that. And he would post his weekly or monthly distributions, and I saw those stocks. If it was working for him, I said, hey, why can't it work for me? So I just pulled the trigger. I ended up selling my Enbridge, sold that for a good profit. I sold my TD. I sold that for a nice 30% profit, which was awesome. I sold off some VFE, actually. I took a little bit out of my portfolio. It was more than 50%, and I brought it down to just 35%. So I took all of that. I put it towards covered call ETFs, and now it generates me just under $1,000 a month in income.
In terms of your paychecks from work, so how much do you allocate from each paycheck to invest in your portfolio?
That's a good question. So at the start of summer, I was, I'm making a lot of money now. I'm out of school. I was doing $500 bi-weekly because, I get paid every other Thursday for my Canadian Tire. Then I get paid every other Friday for my oil company. I was allocating $500 bi-weekly to my investment portfolio and then $500 to savings. And then I use the rest to cover my expenses such as gas, phone bill, and saving up to pay for school in the future.
Covered call ETFs, it's kind of a newer, maybe it's like the thing of this year, the capped upside, how the distributions work in terms of volatility, because it's a very complex topic, and it's super hard for people to grasp if they don't know what they're doing, even just entering the stock market.
Yeah, I when I'm on Blossom, I see a lot of people struggle with understanding it. They like to hate on it because they don't understand it. There's so much hate. I see it every day. It's toxic, but it honestly didn't take me long to understand it. They're selling call options sometimes on a synthetic or on an underlying. You got to understand these companies, what they do. It didn't take me long at all, really. I've watched many of your videos. I've learned, the difference between MST, MSTY, MSTE. That video was very helpful for me. I learned a lot about, Defiance, Harvest, and YieldMax and their strategies. So it's just doing a lot of research. You have to do research on your own. YouTube, Blossom, and just about anywhere else you got to do the research. And it was pretty easy for me to figure it out.
Let's talk about YieldMax. So in terms of YieldMax, when you first saw it, was it a scam? Was it too good to be true? Was this something that you want to avoid? But now you pull the trigger on it, and you have quite a couple YieldMax ETFs.
Yeah, I saw YieldMax, MSTY and ULTY. They're very appealing, of course. Those dollar plus distributions is crazy on only just a $20-something USD investment, and that's it's a lot to get back for your money. You have this feeling of, is it too good to be true? But then you watch investors like Paul, and you see every month they're getting these payments. I thought to myself, if they can do it, then I can. I never really batted an eye to it. I never really thought it would be too crazy, so I tried it out. And yeah, I thought it has been working out well. So
Your top YieldMax ETF is ULTY, over 22%, and then you have MSTY as well. So my question is, why those two?
well, my top being Alti. The reason for that is I love weekly payers. I try to find the best weekly payers. Both of mine right now track Bitcoin, which I like. I'm bullish on Bitcoin. But the reason it's the top of my portfolio is because I love weekly pairs and I get that weekly distribution and my portfolio can compound quicker. I like the compound quickness of it. It makes me feel good like, oh, I'm getting this distribution every week. I can put this wherever I want. I can put this in VFV if I want. Or right back into itself. I like the quickness of the compounding. That's what is appealing to me.
Now, what about MST? Because a lot of people either really hate MST or really love it. And I'd say the haters don't know how leverage works, how the fund works, but you could really use MST with the leverage to compound your returns super fast in an upward market, especially if Bitcoin goes up and if MSTR goes up. So why did you add MST and what are your plans with it?
Yeah, so MST was my first kind of covered call ETF in my portfolio. It was like my first one, so I fell in love with it quickly. Those weekly payments were awesome. I loved it so much. I had it around the 19 mark, and then I averaged down to about 1806. I loved it a lot. It was paying me great. And then it did take a dip last week. We did see a large dip last week, and I was doing some more research on weekly payers, specifically that track Bitcoin, and I did find the Granite shares XBTY. So slowly as MST, even though how much I love it or loved it, I am actually slowly selling out of it because, I did some quick math and I found that XBTY does pay more and it is also less volatile. As a young investor, I like to see my portfolio kind of stay relatively stable, and that's what XBT will provide for me. It's more stable, and plus it pays more. And in a sense I'm kind of yield chasing, but I like the stability.
As a hybrid investor, being so young, you're 20 years old, do you get comments of why don't you just go all in growth or all in VFE and a growth ETF and broad market ETFs and avoid dividends, avoid cover call ETFs? Do you get that a lot? And why do you say that you love hybrid investing?
Yeah, I see it all the time, on my last interview under the comments, like, oh, this kid doesn't know what he's doing. He's young, dumb, his crazy hair and his glasses. I did read a comment like that. And I was like, oh, that's kind of crazy. But because I was in all growth before and, my portfolio wasn't moving that much. And I know, it's a slow game with investing, but I did see this new cover call investing strategies come out. And I said, why not dip my toes in? Let's see what it's like. What's working for other people, can it work for me? And I like it. It helps your portfolio grow quicker because even if you don't put the distributions back into your dividend producing funds, you can put them towards your growth. And yeah, a lot of people say, go growth because you're young, time is only on your side. But, we may not ever get these cover call funds back. And I want to take advantage of it right now.
What about reinvesting the distributions or even dividends? Because I know VFE has a dividend. Spend some of it. Do you reinvest it all back into your ETFs? How do you distribute reinvesting the dividends?
Oh yeah, since I'm so young, it's like I'm not touching this compound interest train, not for a couple years. Everything goes right back into my portfolio. Most of it goes right back into the dividend producing ETFs because I do have I bi-weekly purchase my growth stock, which is VFE. Distributions go right back into the dividend producing stocks because I just want them to grow. I want my income to grow and within my portfolio. One day be able to fund my growth stocks with them.
How do you see yourself as an investor in the next 5 or 10 years with your portfolio strategy and maybe even the ETFs in your portfolio?
I see a lot of people on Blossom and their whole portfolio is just covered calls, and it's like, well, if they could do it, maybe I can. But I was really in a crisis today thinking about that. Should I sell off more VFE? I'm up, almost 8% all time on it, which is awesome. for now, I want to keep that nest egg in my portfolio, that growth machine of VFV. And then in the next 5 to 10 years, I'm going to keep reinvesting those dividends that I get. And I just want my income to grow to eventually fund my lifestyle, my bills, and eventually pay off my school debt. That's the goal with it. And
Let's talk about goals. So
yep.
give me your 6-month, 12-month goal for your portfolio from distributions as well as a portfolio balance.
Yeah, so for distributions, my goal is, well, first off, 1,000 a month. Just seeing the 1,000 a month come in my portfolio. Not as much growth maybe in VFV. I might sell it off, but for now, I'm going to keep holding it. But I'm definitely going to keep buying and keep contributing on my biweekly schedule to these dividend paying ETFs because I need to get to that 1,000 a month. That's one goal. And then after that, it's going to be 10,000 a month is my goal. So $120,000 a year.
In terms of a portfolio goal, because some investors who are cover call investors, they don't care so much about the portfolio balance. It's mostly about, okay, this is my monthly income I want to hit, weekly income for my ETFs. So do you care so much about a portfolio balance, or is it mostly those distributions weekly or even monthly?
Yeah, so definitely a goal I have is definitely, 50,000 in my portfolio. 50,000 under 23 years old is definitely my goal. For On Blossom right now, I have a goal set at 40,000 because I just feel like that would be crazy just, to double my portfolio. And it says I'm going to hit that in about 10 months, which is really exciting to see. And for retiring, if we're going to talk about retiring, I definitely want to see a $3 to $5 million portfolio. That is my goal for sure.
What about age?
45 to 50, or 45 if possible.
When you see retirement, what kind of things do you want to do? Is it a car you want to get? Is it providing for your family? What are some goals you have for retirement?
Every day I think about it, I get closer to my goal. I want to buy a car. I'm such a car guy. I want a Hellcat right now. It's so bad. I love cars and I want to be able to fund that with my portfolio. And also, yeah, of course, support my family, right? I want to be able to, help my parents pay off their house, and stuff like that. And so they have no debt. I want to be able to send them money to cover their bills. And I also want to be able to fund my lifestyle for sure. I definitely want cars, multiple. So that's the goal.
We have like the same goals. I love cars. I love, providing for my future family, hopefully, and everything. So how do you choose which cover call ETFs to add to your portfolio?
I kind of look at the history of an ETF. For ULTY, making that choice, I did see that it was, over 70% down all time. That didn't bother me. The way I see it is, it's at a great discount right now. And even if it drops any lower, then at least I didn't buy it at inception or all-time high. I'm seeing it as I got this stock in an all-time low and it can only be up from here. That's the way I see it. The way I pick more stocks, I also look at yield, the monthly distributions, how consistent it is, and then I do some math. I take, say, if I have this much cash on hand, I usually do it in increments of 1,000. So I'll see how much will $1,000 make me in this stock. And if it doesn't make me this much and another one makes me more, then I'm going to choose the higher yielding one. Only if I check the other boxes such as stability over time and the distribution frequency, which I like weeklies, but monthlies are also good as well.
I like your portfolio in terms of not going all in cover call ETFs. You do have a significant portion into VFV because if you look at your portfolio on Blossom, you are in the green, where most cover call ETF investors, they are in the red. Now, I would say that Blossom does not include the distributions or the income. So a lot of investors who are mostly cover call investors with like 1 million, 2 million in cover call ETFs, on Blossom, it will show negative returns because it doesn't factor in the distributions, which is the most important part of these ETFs. So my question is going to be to NAV erosion. So is your portfolio experiencing NAV erosion? What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, NAV erosion, you see a lot of people talking about it. For the people who bought ULTY at inception, they would have experienced a lot of NAV erosion. Their portfolio may have gone down a lot if they bought it at inception. But if they kept dollar cost averaging, it would have hurt them a little bit less. For my portfolio, the most drops I've seen is MST. That is due to the leverage in it, and it's very volatile. I kind of knew that, but I also didn't at the start. So that's why I'm kind of getting out of it now. I want a more stable weekly pair that tracks Bitcoin. It's only with really MST I've seen the erosion, and it hasn't been much. It was about I saw 15% decrease in a day of my position. Yeah, that's a lot, but my distributions already minimized that a lot, so it was only ended up being about 10%. So I was like, okay, only 10% down, that's fine. But as the days go on and it shoots up one day, I'll sell some, and just like today, it did shoot up a bit on market open, and I did sell some, and I relocated it back to XBTY.
Now, tell me, out of all the ETFs in your portfolio, which one are you most excited about for the next decade?
Oh, Ulti for sure. Since it's my largest covered call investing holding, I just like the price right now. It is so low, and and I see the AUM just keeps going crazy on it. It just keeps going up. 2 weeks ago we were at 2 billion, and then a week later it's at 3 billion. It's just so exciting to me watching so many people invest in these kind of funds. And I see a great future with Ulti because it's ever since they changed their strategy back in March or whatever, we just see stable distributions with also a stable stock share price, and I'm just really excited to see if it'll go up or I'm very excited for Ulti. I just love it so much.
Now, as a younger investor like yourself, are you ever nervous or worried about a recession where you might see your portfolio drop a lot in value, maybe see distributions drop quite a bit as well, but we know that volatility could hold up in a recession for covered call ETFs. So my question is, how will you react in a recession with your portfolio as yourself as a younger investor?
Yeah, so I haven't experienced much dips or pullbacks such as COVID, big pullbacks like that because I only started investing in early 2024. If there is a recession, I'm not going to change a thing. Things keep dropping, VFV drops, or my covered call drops, you keep buying, you keep dollar cost averaging. I'm not scared because I've seen it. I've seen it happen. Even though I haven't had my money, and I've seen it, and things do come back, and I'm really not afraid of it. You just see things I see things as a discount, and it's on sale, so let me buy more. So you got to always have some cash on hand to be able to buy the dips or recessions. You just keep investing. You keep a hard head, and you just keep investing.
Do people ask you, maybe your family or your friends, like what is your portfolio like, or even about investing? Because it's super simple to explain growth versus covered calls. How do people react when you tell them your portfolio strategy, if they ever do ask that aren't people on Blossom?
I haven't had many questions in person about this, but me and my brother, we're twins, and we both kind of have the same strategy right now. We have really the same strategy. So we kind of consult each other on that. And then my friend from university, he kind of asked me about it and stuff like that. And now we're both very invested in covered call ETFs. They asked me about it, and I say, yeah, it's income. It's kind of an income portfolio, what I have. And the way I explain it, I have income and I have a safety net. So my portfolio grows, I get a solid amount every month, and I put that back into my portfolio, and then next month or next week I'll get even more. The way I explain it is I have a safety net and I have an income portion, and it's working out.
Let's talk about maybe like a fear or maybe some concerns of your portfolio. Is there anything that you're fearful of about your portfolio, or something that maybe keeps you up a little bit at night?
Yeah, definitely the volatility of some of these stocks. It does stress me out a little bit. I am new to the covered call investing, and also the funds that I'm in are really new as well. So because with Ulti, if I saw those distributions last year, I would have been right in, and then I would have saw this huge dip. So I kind of just be careful now with the stocks that I pick and stuff like that. A fear that I have is, them all going to zero, but it's kind of impossible, but it is in the back of your mind. The distributions will be minuscule. You lose 50% of your investment. Now you're stuck with this little amount of money. So that does go in the back of my mind, but I'm on my portfolio every day. I update it every day. I make moves every single day. So if something were like that to happen, I would be right on top of it.
How do you learn more about the stock market and always trying to make your portfolio better, not make as much mistakes along your investing journey?
Yeah, so first it started out by learning from YouTube because, I didn't know about Blossom yet. But so, yeah, learning about YouTube, learning about, what the stock market is, what are options, what are, growth stocks. And I also, first I learned about the original dividend stocks, such as like Starbucks and Visa, the dividend kings like Coke. And then kind of where I get all my knowledge about my next moves and stuff is from Blossom. I don't have pretty much anyone IRL to talk about this investing except with my brother and my friend from university. So it's mainly from Blossom, and then consulting a friend about moves we should make.
With Blossom, I'm always posting on Blossom. I post like at least a couple times a day. It's a lot of fun to talk with other investors and see what everybody's doing and seeing what the word is on the street. How do you feel with like Blossom, like the community and everybody in cover call investing and growth investing? And do you feel welcomed? And what are some things that you really love about Blossom and some things that you wish that Blossom could improve on?
Yeah, so I do love Blossom. It is my main vehicle of knowledge for investing. I've learned absolutely everything I know pretty much about investing on Blossom. Everyone cheers you on. I'll post a distribution, or I'll post, hey, this is next part of my journey, and I get so much love, and I love it, and it feels awesome. It feels great to know that there are people, all the way in Alberta from where I live. They support me. I have a couple friends on there. I can call them my friends now. Colin, Christopher, and this guy named Riggs. They're I can call them my friends now, which is crazy. And they live far away, but they support me. We talk in the comments section, we talk in DMs. It's nice, and I love it so much. Everyone's so supportive. And there are some things that I don't like is also there's a lot of toxicity against the covered call investing community from growth investors. They say, "Oh, you're out of your mind. You're going to lose all your money." In the back of your head, it just kind of sucks to see that. Rather than them asking to understand, say if they approach you differently, maybe we'd be more happy to explain our strategy to you and why we want this to work for us.
Yeah, the thing I like about investing is we're all in it together. So I have like 99% of my money in growth ETFs, and I love
Yeah.
growth investing.
Yep.
And you have a hybrid portfolio, and
Yep.
people have all in SCHD, all in MSTY, all in ULTY, and cover call ETFs, and bonds, and dividend and growth. There's so many ways to invest in the stock market, and I really like how we could all just come together on Blossom, just in general, to discuss our strategies and what works for us. And some people's strategy works for them, and it might not work for somebody else. But hopefully, in the end, we could all have the same goal, which is retirement, having a good amount of money, and hopefully helping each other along the way. Now, what are your thoughts on your dividend, or should I say distribution yield? It's over 54%. Do you think it's a higher yield? Is it too high for you? Is it just right? Do you want to lower it? And what are your thoughts overall on that yield?
I think it's pretty crazy that I have an over 50% yield. But over the years, I believe it will drop a bit. Go around the. I think I will be happy with like a 35% yield, kind of around where Perry's at right now. But right now, I just kind of did this transition pretty quickly, so my yield is pretty high. But I will definitely be starting to focus more on growth stocks as time goes on. But no, I'm happy where it is because my portfolio can be guaranteed to grow by over 50% a year. Anyone wants that, and I love it. I'm happy with it right now, and I will keep contributing to those covered call stocks to maybe increase it or slowly decrease it, or sorry, keep it the same, but use those distributions for other purposes such as growth stocks and total market indexes, stuff like that.
Passive income investing. I was talking to a couple ETF portfolio managers and CEOs, and we were talking about why people do cover call ETFs and passive income investing. And some of them said that maybe it's a concern for these investors in terms of making a lot of money in their career, so they could supplement it up with maybe passive income distributions, premiums, and whatnot. So do you have a fear of maybe not making enough money in your career, and you want to supplement that with potentially distributions from the cover call ETFs doing their thing by selling cover calls against the underlying assets?
Yeah, I for sure. I that's always been my fear is not making money, not making enough money. That's why I work so much. It's just that fear inside of me. I don't know where that came from, but it is a fear. And that's why I'm working so hard in school as well to have that guaranteed high paying job. My goal right now that I have in my mind is $300,000 a year or about $30,000 a month. That is my goal, like for my 9 to 5 job. And yeah, for my portfolio to also be paying me these kind of distributions is a great supplement to my 9 to 5. And if I only ended up making $80,000 a year, that's fine. My portfolio will also help. But I do have a goal, and I really do hope to reach it. So,
Do you feel that passive income investing with covered calls fills in that gap of the inflation we're experiencing, and we've always going to experience inflation? Do you think that your portfolio will always beat inflation?
yeah, 100%. With these distributions, they're magnificent. You get paid so much for your investment, and I believe they definitely do beat inflation, because if you get that distribution, you put it back in, you get more next month, I feel like you're already beating it.
In terms of the risk of your portfolio, so let's go with 1 being the lowest amount of risk, and then 5 being the highest amount of risk. What kind of risk is your portfolio that you think right now?
Just because of how new these covered calls are, I think I'm at a 3 right now. It's just because that they're new. Next year, maybe I'll say, hey, maybe a 2. But we just got to see how they work out, and it's over time. Over time, we see how things work out. So I believe, yeah, I'm definitely right. Mid to high risk portfolio, just because they're new. That's how I feel.
If you could remember, like, the one thing that made you start investing in the stock market, and then one thing that made you just pull the trigger and to go into cover call ETFs. So for me, it was, I read a Tony Robbins book. I believe it was called like Money Master the Game. And now that's why I'm like obsessed with the S&P, and it's like 70+% of my portfolio right now. So do you remember what was that one thing that made you just, I got to start investing in the stock market? And then one thing that was like, I got to start passive income investing with cover call ETFs. Yeah.
So the one thing to get me started in the stock market was definitely the S&P. I fell in love with it. I watched this YouTube video where I think it was Mark Tilbury putting so much money in, and then it gave you this projection, 40 years, this investment's at 2 million or something like that. And I was like, wow, if I can grow my money to this, then I can definitely have a relaxing retirement. And I just fell in love with that. The fact that my money could grow, without making more, it just grows on its own. You just kind of set it and forget it. And that was really crazy to me. It was hard to believe. And then doing more research and stuff like that. And then to getting into covered call investing was definitely Paul. He was like one of the first ones I followed on Blossom, one of the first people. And I saw, the one screenshot, it was a while ago, it said 120,000. I was like, wow, 10,000 a month. I would not know what to do with all that money, but I want that. And I did some research. I looked at his portfolio. I did some calculations, and I said, you know what? I think this is right for me. I want my portfolio to grow at a faster rate. So I want these distributions, whether it be weekly or monthly. I want to see these large distributions grow my portfolio.
Throw it back to you. So do you DCA or do you lump sum?
When I first started, how I lump summed $11,000, and I didn't see much growth in VFV. Well, that's because I did lump sum, but I feel like if I DCA, I didn't really know what it was at the start. I had no idea what DCAing was. But now I do DCA unless it's a stock I see that's like really on sale, such as LLHE dropped 20% the other day. I'm going to go lump sum in there. So unless a stock, is on extremely on sale, I'll lump sum. But if it's kind of like a longer term holding, such as VFV right now, as of right now, all my covered calls, I'm going to DCA every 2 weeks, with my paycheck. So I definitely like DCAing because you can lower your price and make more in the long run.
What's one mistake that you made so far that you will always try to avoid no matter what happens?
My one mistake that I made, I think, is not getting in earlier. I really wanted to get in earlier because my brother introduced me to VFV when it was at 120. And I really wish I could have got in and listened to him because I ended up buying VFV at 145. And, I lost that $20 of increase. I don't know how many percent that would have been, 30 plus. And that is my biggest mistake, is not starting when my brother told me to. I regret that a lot.
Now, what's one common misconception that people have about cover call ETFs and passive income investing?
That it's a scam. I see people saying it's a scam. They're returning your own money. If they were returning your own money, you look at Perry's portfolio, he has house money on how many stocks? 2 or 3 stocks already. If they were returning his own money, you wouldn't see his distributions grow. You'd see his fund going down, with the distributions just matching it. But no, he's got this again, he has it twice. With he's got house money on these stocks, they have already paid for themselves. So I believe when people say it's a scam, they obviously haven't invested in it, and they just got to try it out and see it actually does work.
Now, what are some tips that you have for people just starting to invest in the stock market that are maybe like 18, 19, early 20s? Maybe you think would be some helpful non-financial advice.
Yeah, definitely some non-financial advice for some young investors would be to start in an S&P 500 index. You need to get that nest egg in your portfolio, that security, the secure safety net first before anything else, before you dip your toes into covered call investing, which, have a higher risk. You need to understand the stock market, understand what maybe covered call investing is, and just have your money in an S&P 500 index because it is proven to grow and it's just safe. It is very, very safe.
Now, do you think that high income investing is overrated or underrated?
Underrated, 100%, because covered call investing can fund your lifestyle without you even working. You can make more money from your portfolio than you ever will working a 9 to 5. So you just need to have the discipline to keep buying and keep buying, and your portfolio will grow, your distribution will grow. Therefore, it is very underrated.
Have you ever thought about using margin or leverage or taking out debt to fund your portfolio?
I've been thinking about it. I see people do it on Blossom and stuff like that, but it is scary. To me right now, I don't have the capital to pay back that loan. I'd have to sell all my investments, but right now, margin investing, taking out loans is very scary for me because I've never taken out a loan or anything. I do not want to go near that. I want it to be with my money that I earned from my job to go into my stocks. So yeah, it's very scary for me. I won't be touching that until I understand it more.
When you think about like what's the motivator, the main few motivators, like what's going to be keeping you on this path?
Definitely seeing other people's success stories in the stock market. That's what keeps me motivated. I see people, staying down, investing their money, even when the market was down, even when they got a lot of bills. You don't have to throw in $500 bi-weekly. You can even throw in $50. As long as you stay consistent, dollar cost average, grow your portfolio, you will be just fine. That is my biggest motivator, is just no matter what. Like I recently just had to, I had to buy a new truck, and boom, my savings, almost zero. But, through that, I'm still investing. I'm still keeping it on my schedule. It sucks. You have to stay on top of it, or else your portfolio won't grow if you don't contribute to it.
If somebody watches this video and that this video hopefully might be watched by quite a few people, what are some takeaways that they want to know about you, or that you want them to know about yourself? And what's your message to beginner level investors, people just watching and that might be inspired by you? I could tell that you probably have a good work ethic, a good family, head over your shoulders, and you are just trying to navigate your stock market journey, but you got started at such a young age, because some people get started with investing in their 30s, 40s, maybe way too late.
Definitely what I want them to know about me is just I'm a super hard worker. Like, I've always been working hard, whether it be school or jobs or trying to be best at, the sport that I play, just about anything. I work really hard and I do my best to learn the most about absolutely anything. Younger investors, what I want them to take away from me is that it's super important to save your money when you get that first job. I know you want to, blow that check on food or new clothes. And yeah, I've been there, done that, but then you end up realizing that those clothes aren't going to make you money in retirement. The money you have in clothes aren't going to grow over time. So you gotta be really good with your money. First, save, learn how to save. It's very, very important. Learning how to save, because that's what I did. Learned how to save my money and not spend it. Learn the discipline of investing weekly or bi-weekly. I feel like that is super important.
Is if you have a family and kids and whatnot, do you plan on giving them a portion of your portfolio, leaving them a good nest egg? And how do you plan on maybe teaching them how to grow wealth and invest in the stock market? And maybe they could get started at a way younger age. So I want to throw it back to you on maybe your future goals with family and how you want to, leave money to your future generations.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely want to leave money to my, my kids and my girlfriend, soon to be my wife. I want to be able to leave her money, with my discipline. I want to be able to share the wealth. For sure. I'm definitely, when I have kids, I'm going to teach them, take them aside at 14, 15, say, hey, this is the stock market. This is what I did when I was young. I've seen in my life a lot of people make a lot of financial mistakes. I see it every day. I see it in the media. I hear it in advertisements. And I want to guide them in the right way. Say, that's not what you do with your money. This is what you do. You save, you learn how to invest, and you make your money grow. And then eventually, you can't take that money to the grave. Might as well leave it to someone who could use it. So I would be more than happy to hand over my portfolio to my future generation.
Feel free to tell everybody where they could find you.
Yeah, so Blossom, my on Blossom is at Netspend, NETTSPEND, or you can search up Jared LaMarche with a space in between. And my YouTube channel that I'm starting, I'll have a video up this week. So my on there is Wealth with Jared, no spaces. And yeah, so a lot coming soon for my Blossom and my YouTube channel.
Now, if you guys like this video, please give it a like because this cute puppy did. And don't forget to check out our last interview right here on your screen. I love you guys so much. Crush in the stock market and take it easy. Peace.